In 1967, Rip Curl, one of the three big surf brands, started in Australia and initially started making surfboards. But in 1970, they were onto what O'Neill started, which was wetsuits. And there was a young guy working there named Alan Green. And a few years later, Alan Green started a company of his own after he left Rip Curl called Quicksilver. Quicksilver is another huge surf brand and originally out of Australia. And incidentally, its logo was inspired by a famous woodcut painting by a Japanese painter, Hokusai. You've seen this image. Hopefully you can see it either below or here. So you can see the Quicksilver logo, and you can see the painting by Hokusai, and you can totally see where it comes from. In 73, Billabong started up as a surf retailer. What really got them going, the founder, Gordon Merchant, started creating triple stitch board shorts, which prevented upper leg rash when surfers would paddle out. Right, so basically, like the shorts had this, like, this the seam, and I had a version of this when I was a kid. I think there was very much a change in how this was already, because I grew up in California. So I remember, like, you would go out for too long and the water would rub against, the waves would make the seam rub against your legs. And literally you had these red marks on your legs, and it was irritating. And then on top of that, you've got the water, which irritated it even further. So when this invention of a triple stitch board short came out, as you can imagine, it changed everything. So all these little, innovations over the course of surfing just made the sport more accessible to people. It made it more fun, and it made it made it easier. So everybody could go out and do it, and you didn't even have to be that good. But because the boards were so light and there were fins and you can have wetsuits, so you don't have to worry about the cold water, suddenly you had no excuse but to go out and surf, especially if you grew up near a beach, which I did. In 71, also, I should also add, Jack O'Neill invented the leash, which meant you wouldn't lose your board, right? Suddenly you could attach it to your ankle. You could go out, the board, you lost your board. You obviously can get it back, but more importantly, you didn't drown. So the leash was actually responsible for saving people's lives, because remember, the board obviously floated, and if you were attached, it would act as like kind of a life raft, if you will, a lifesaver, and it actually saved many surfers' lives. So in the world of culture now, this is like in the mid 70s, it was just all encompassing. All facets of American culture were now affected by this. And there was a famous TV show then called The Brady Bunch. And there was a very famous episode that was trying to relate it to something that's going on now. I mean, at the time, it was probably one of the most climactic episodes ever, because you had to watch, like part 2 of this kind of episode to figure out what was going to happen at the end. And this is also at a time when obviously you had to wait for the following week to actually watch the episode. So for an entire week, you were, sitting at the edge of your seat waiting to see what was going to happen. Here's a bit about that episode.